So the problem with the array, like amount of data cannot be predicted beforehand, so it is not possible. Like if I am doing some kind of calculation and I'm making a program of suppose 1 lakh lines of code, then it is not possible like in some kind of calculation I can predict like these number of elements or these number of memory spaces will be required. So this prediction is not possible. The number of data items keeps changing during the program execution. Okay, so in that case, declaring an array of small size, but in the runtime the requirement is of array of some more elements, then that is not possible because we cannot increase the size of the array. And if we have declared an array of very big size, but at the runtime only a limited memory space is using or limited locations are using, and maximum elements maximum locations are we are not using them, so this will be the memory wastage. So this is the problem with the array. So now we are having a concept of the dynamic array. Like we are having this situation, जैसे अभी मैंने थोड़ा सा पहले एग्जांपल दिया था. This is an array. We are having 4 elements. The array size is 6 and the 4 locations are filled here. Now this is suppose it is some kind of pointer, it is pointing to here. Now I simply add an element. I'm inserting element 5, then this element will go here, and we are having this one blank location, and I'm inserting 2, then it will come here. Now we are not having any blank location in the array, and if I want to insert the 3, but it will not be possible. The array is full and there is no room for a new item. So this kind of problem can be removed or solved by using the concept of the dynamic array. The dynamic ये name आ रहा है ना यहाँ पे, it's meaning like the array can be changed in terms of size. The size can be increased or the size can be decreased. Means simply we can modify the array. So like I am declaring an array, any kind of array at the runtime, and whatever can be the size of the array, suppose it is 10. So at the runtime I can increase or decrease the size of the array. But ऐसा नहीं हो कि ये जो अरे है ये हमने इसको जैसे स्टैटिकली डिक्लेयर किया और फिर इसको हमने यहाँ पे रन टाइम पे फिर इसको साइज इंक्रीज कर दिया या साइज डिक्रीज कर दिया, इस तरह से नहीं होगा. एंड हाउ दैट विल बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड, दैट्स द क्वेश्चन. So we will create a new bigger array in this such kind of situation. A new bigger array, like the size of the bigger array will be double the size of the previous array. Like the size of this array is 6 elements, then in such kind of situation we will create an array of for 12 elements, like 0 to from 0 to 11. So we will create a new bigger array like this and simply copy all the elements from the previous array to the new array. So copy the elements of the old array onto it. Just copy it. Now we can insert any element in this array. Like I'm inserting here 3. And what about this previously allocated array? We can simply free the memory of this kind of array. बट ऐसा नहीं होगा कि जो हमने स्टैटिकली डिक्लेयर किया था उस केस में नहीं होगा. दिस एरे शुड बी क्रिएटेड बाय यूजिंग द मेमोरी एलोकेशन फंक्शन डायनामिकली. अगर ऐसा होता है मींस वी नीड द एड्रेस ऑफ दिस एरेज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ पॉइंटर दैट विल बी गिवन एज इनपुट टू सम फंक्शंस. वी आर हैविंग फंक्शन फॉर फ्रीइंग allocated memory space, that is free function in the C programming. And for memory allocation we are having 3 functions. First one is malloc, then calloc, and then zalloc. So these can be used for memory allocation. So I will tell you one by one the use of each and every one and the difference. So in the beginning when we need an array, so simply we create an array by, we will focus on this only, malloc. Okay, so we'll create an array using the malloc function. The address of that array will be in a pointer, And if there is a requirement like the array size need to be increased, then we simply create a new array again the by using this malloc function. Copy the elements of the previous array into the new array, and by using the free function we simply pass the pointer of the previous old array into the free, and this memory block will be released free. तो कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है, डायनामिक मेमोरी एलोकेशन में डायनामिकली क्रिएट एन array, and if there is a need to increase the size, then create a new array and copy the elements of the previous array into the new array, or the old array to the new array, and just free the memory of the previous array. And it may be possible like जैसे हमने यहाँ पे इसका size increase किया, अब इसमें element reduce हो गए, so we can make a threshold value like the elements, if the elements are below 6, then we will use a smaller array, and if the elements are above 6, then we will use this bigger array. ये मैं जनरलाइज चीज नहीं बता रहा हूँ, मैं इस array के फॉर्म में बता रहा हूँ आपको. Like when we simply increase the size, तो increase size करेंगे तो ये कब होगा, जब टोटल सारी मेमोरी लोकेशंस फिल अप हो जाएंगी. और रिड्यूस कब करना है, सपोज दिस एलिमेंट डिलीटेड this and there is only one element in the array, but the array size is very large for only one element. So in that case, what we will do, we will create another smaller array, copy this element to from here to this, and we will free this memory space. So this is the concept of the dynamic array. So free the previously allocated space, like this will be. So जैसे हमने insert किया 3 and free the previously allocated space. So we will have a new array with bigger size. Now the better solution for this is dynamic memory allocation. So know how much memory is needed after the program is run. Like example, ask the user to enter from the keyboard. So that can also be made dynamic with the intervention of the user, or the interference of the user, or the input from the user. They can ask the user that how many elements he want to insert in the array, and according to that just allocate that required memory space at that time. Okay, so dynamically allocate only the amount of memory needed by the user. So it will be a better solution. So C provides functions. So rather than declaring the array statically, just create the array dynamically for better utilization of the memory space, and for removing the problem related to the size of the array at the runtime. Okay, so we will use the names like runtime or the execution time parallelly, both are same. So C provides some functions to dynamically allocate the memory. We are having these functions malloc, alloc, and realloc, and last one is the free function that is used for freeing the memory. Okay, so let's have a look one by one to each of the functions. Okay, before going to the functions, just take a look at the static memory allocation and the dynamic memory allocation. And I think it is clear to all what is the meaning of dynamic memory allocation. So dynamic, static तो वो है जो अभी हम करते आ रहे थे, variable declare किए statically, और dynamically it can be done at the runtime with the help of the user. So in the static memory allocation, variables get allocated permanently, mean the size of the variables cannot be changed. And in this case, variables get allocated only if your program units get active. Okay, means it is in the running condition. Here the program, the allocation is done before the program execution. In this dynamic memory allocation, the allocation is done during the program execution. And the static memory allocation, it uses the data structure called stack for implementing the stack allocation. And here it will use the data structure heap for implementing the dynamic allocation. And it is less efficient, तो वो तो है ही, memory efficiency की term में देखें तो यहाँ memory wastage भी होता है और run time पे problem भी आती है. But it is more efficient as compared to this, because we can increase and decrease the size of the array. Okay, so in this static memory allocation, there is no memory reusability. But in the case of dynamic memory allocation, the memory reusability and memory can be freed up when there is no requirement of the memory. So this concept is like the linked list, but it is differed as compared to the linked list. So when we will discuss the linked list, then I will clear you this thing. Now let's come to the memory allocation functions. We are having these three functions, that is malloc, calloc and realloc. And this is the function. It will simply free the previously allocated space. Okay, but we will use only this function in our programs and the codes that I will explain you. We will not use the calloc and realloc. So the first one, malloc, it allocates the requested number of bytes and returns a pointer to the first byte of the allocated space. Okay, इसका सिंटैक्स देखते हैं अभी क्या है. तो जो भी इसका सिंटैक्स होगा, and there will be a pointer return for that particular memory block. In the case of calloc, it allocates space for an array of elements and initializes them to 0 and then return a pointer to the memory. जैसे हमने इससे array के लिए memory allocation किया यहाँ पे, तो उतने साइज का मेमोरी एलोकेशन हो जाएगा जितना हमने साइज इनपुट किया है और उसका पॉइंटर रिटर्न हो जाएगा. यहाँ पे हमको कितने नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट्स के लिए एलोकेशन करना है और साथ में जब वो रिटर्न होगा तो उस एरे के सारे एलिमेंट जो हैं दैट विल बी इनिशियलाइज्ड विद 0, ऑटोमेटिकली इनिशियलाइज्ड विद 0. ओके, दिस फंक्शन विल फ्री द प्रीवियसली allocated space and the reallocate modifies the size of the previously allocated space. बट दे आर सम रेस्ट्रिक्शन. ओके, अब वो रेस्ट्रिक्शंस क्या हैं मैं बताता जाता हूँ आपको वन बाय वन. जैसे हमने इस फंक्शन के थ्रू कोई भी हमने पहले मेमोरी स्पेस एलोकेशन किया, देन वी कैन चेंज दैट मेमोरी एलोकेशन, लाइक रिड्यूस और इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज बाय दिस फंक्शन. बट उतना मेमोरी स्पेस अवेलेबल होना चाहिए जितना हमको उसमें एलोकेट करना है. ठीक है,